everybody. I'm really excited about something. I'm really excited about something. See, there are those cards that for years and years and years, you want them, you chase them, you look for them, you hunt for them, and the hunt becomes kind of part of the fun. And to me, it's kind of part of the fun. See, it's like, where am I going to find the card, the one that's going to go into my collection and stay there? And there are, you guys know my Grail cards. My Grail card is the 54 Topps Ernie Banks. I'm huge, obviously, on the 48 Bowman Yogi Berra. Another card I've wanted for 30 years is the 57 Brooks Robinson rookie. But there are other cards too. There are other cards too that I've wanted for a long time. Now, if we go back about time's going fast. 3 weeks. If we go back 3 weeks, I sat down with my buddy Darren from Return to Collecting, and we talked about our goals for the year as far as our collection goes. And in that conversation, we each listed 15 cards that we really wanted to add to our collection during the year. And obviously, we're not going to add all 15. All 15 would be unaffordable, unattainable. But there were 15 cards we were really going to hunt for this year and hopefully pick up a handful of them. I picked one of them up. And it's a card I've probably bid on 20 times. It's a card I've looked at. You've seen me look at the card at shows. I've talked about the card. It's a big card. Well, it's for me, it's a big, what is a big card? For me, it's a big card into my collection. And anything to me that's over, I don't know, $300, that's pretty expensive for me. Anything over $500 is a big card. This is a big card for me. I'm excited to show it to you. But whenever you're making that big purchase, you want to feel like you're getting a decent price, right? You want to say, I'm getting a good deal. Don't worry, I'm going to show you the card in just a second. I'll give you a real good look at it. But this video is more than just about the pickup. The other part of it is the role of comping cards. How do you figure out what things are worth? Because, 25 years ago, you'd look in the Beckett, there were the two columns. It was really easy to tell what a card was worth. That's what we all agreed on. And things have slowly but surely changed. Now, grading has a part to do with that. Population reports has a part to do with that. eBay has other auction sites. There's a lot that goes into feeling like you're getting a good deal. And I've had a lot of people tell me, oh, you're buying undergraded cards. So you're screwing yourself over, Greg, because what you're doing is you're buying a card that's in a holder that's lower and it's not going to get higher. So now, and I've had other people say, oh, you think that card's nice. It's not really that nice. And that whatever. That's cool. But we want to feel for ourselves that we're getting a good deal. So I'm going to show you the card, and then I'm going to walk you through how comping the card works for me. Okay? I'm going to show you that process. And there's something that's happening that I've felt was going to start happening. I've talked about how it was going to continue to happen and is going to happen more and more and more. And in the process of comping this card, it right there, I saw it happening. What is it? What is the card? First, let's take a look at the card. Then let's take a look at the comp, and then we'll come back, we'll talk about it, and then we'll look into this topic more. Let's check it out. All right, so what is the card? It's the 1955 Topps Jackie Robinson. My favorite Jackie Robinson card, and I'm absolutely in love with this copy. It has the color, it has the clarity, it has the centering, it's got a beautiful back as well, which is, quite frankly, not super high on my priority list, but it's nice when it's there, and the back is centered and clean. I mean, this is a gorgeous card. And I am so excited for it. Now, the corners, they're okay. They're nothing special. PSA assigned this card a grade of a 4. But just, I love it. I mean, it's absolutely what I've been looking for several years. And it's my favorite Jackie card and my first one. So, how did I find out if the price that I paid was a good price? Well, here are the last 4 sales. Okay, we have 4 cards on the screen. They're all PSA 4 grades. They're all newer labels. And when we look at the 4, you kind of go, okay, so they're the same grade, so should they sell for the same amount? Should they sell for different amounts? Well, again, to me, the grade is just a guide. It's just a suggestion. Now, the one in the bottom left corner that I highlighted there, it has the best centering, but it has a couple like roller marks or ink marks at the top right over his hat and in the middle. But the one that sold for the most, I'm not sure if this is the one you would have picked. Maybe it was. Sold as a buy it now for $675, the one at the top left-hand corner. The one at the bottom left-hand corner with the roller marks, but the really nice centering, sold for $668. So, of the other 2, which one do you think sold for more? Well, it's interesting because I think that maybe my favorite of the 4 was the bottom right corner. The one in the bottom right corner is probably the one I liked the most. And it sold for $635. Now, I like all of them, don't get me wrong. But I think the one in the bottom right corner was my personal favorite. But I totally understand why somebody else would feel otherwise. That one sold for $635. And it was an auction. And then the buy it now sold for $596 at the top right-hand corner. So let's look at kind of some of the stats, which I find interesting. First, of the last 4 that had a quality picture, the highest one went for $675. The lowest one went for $596. That's a 13% gap. It's interesting that there's such a big margin between what 4 of them could sell for. Now, the one with the highest price that sold was a buy it now, a fixed price offer. And the one with the lowest price it sold was also a fixed price offer. The only auction in that group sold in the middle of the pack. Now, when we look at the one that sold for the most, it was not the best centered one. The best centered one was the one at the bottom left corner that sold for the second most, the one that had kind of a little bit of an ink mark on it. I got my Jackie! I got my Jackie Robinson card. And not only is it just a Jackie not only is it a Jackie Robinson card, it's my favorite Jackie Robinson card. And I love that example. I love it. What I wanted was really nice centering, really nice clarity, really nice color, and hopefully decent corners. Though it wasn't, it has to be a 2, it has to be a 3, it has to be a 5, it has to be a 6. No, it didn't matter. It just had to fit my eye. And that fits my eye. When I bought that card, I screenshotted that. I've probably showed that a picture of that card. I was so excited. I probably sent it to more people than I've sent any card that I've ever bought. Now, why is that? Well, partly because I've got more friends in the hobby that would maybe be excited for me for it. But also because I'm really excited about it. Now, one of the things that happened with that is I looked at 4 recent comps. And I looked at 4 recent comps that had good quality pictures. And I looked on the same auction site, eBay, so that there would be consistency. Okay, one with a good picture that is easy to see, not blurry, not far away. One that was on eBay for all of them. And all the same grade with the same grading company. And the same grading company of the one I was buying. And when I looked at those, I felt like, yeah, Because I paid $640. Is that flexing to tell you? I don't think it's flexing. I think it's educational. I think it's part of what I'm trying to get across here is one of the, some of those sold for more, some of those sold for less. But when I looked at the copy, at the example that I bought, I really liked the looks of it. So it's kind of in the middle of the comps. And in addition to being in the middle of the comps, I think it's a really high-end for at least what I'm looking for. Now, if you're a corner freak, and corners are the only thing that matters to you, one of those other four that we just looked at is probably nicer for you. And that's great. And that's the one you should buy. But for my preferences, I felt like it was a very fair deal for a card that met those specifications. So then I started thinking, how are other cards selling? I want to look at a variety of different cards, and I want to compare the centering. I want to compare the look of the card. I want to look at the four of them and see, is the centering making a big price difference in the final sale price? Is color? Are corners? Because when you're comping a card, it's definitely not only about the number at the top corner of the card. If you're only going, oh, that's a 4 and this is a 4 and that's a 4, I don't think that's the way to comp. To me, the way to comp is to look at one with similar color, with similar corners, with similar centering. And it may not be the same grade. It may, if I bought a 4 of that Jackie Robinson, there might be 5s that I think are comparable. There might be 3s that I think are comparable. So let's look at 4 recent sales, and we're going to stick with the Jackie Robinson thing. So we're going to go to 1953 and then 54. We just looked at 55s, then we'll look at 56, and we'll compare 4 very recent sales. We're going to look at the cards. We're going to see which ones we like, and they're going to see what they paid for them. What did they finally sell for? And is there some sort of commonality? And not just is there some sort of commonality, is it the grade? Is it the grade that determines the price? Or is it the card? Because so many people keep saying, are we buying the card or are we buying the grade? And everyone says we should buy the card, not the grade. But is that what we're actually doing? Let's take a look at this together. I found it to be extremely interesting. And there are things that I would recommend everybody think about when you're buying a card, regardless of the grade that was assigned to it.
So I have 4 copies of the 1953 Topps Jackie Robinson. Same player, same grading company, and the same grade, a 4. Now, if you look at these 4, which of these would you want most? Now, some of us are color people. Some of us are centering people. Some of us are clarity people. Some of us are surface people. But which one would you want? That's the first question when you look at these 4. Sure, they all received a 4 grade, but they're not all created equal. Now, for me, the one on the left has the best centering. That's the one I'm highlighting throughout this. Doesn't mean it's necessarily the best, although to me, that one is the best. And it's sold for the most. It sold for $2,090. And there's all the information about it. When it sold. All of these are very recent, like the last 30 to 60 days. And then you go, okay, which is the next best one? Well, would you have picked that one as the second best? Some of you would. Some of you, that was your favorite. But that was the second highest sale. $290 less. Is that worth $290 less for you? Maybe, maybe not. And then the last third and fourth had the same sale price of $1,730. So when you lined those up, is that the order you would rank them? Because in theory, if they're selling for more than others, then people think it's better than the others. And then there's other people that say it's a 4. All 4s are 4s, so who cares? Well, I think we're moving away from that. I think we're starting to realize as a group of collectors that when your card looks better than another in the same grade, it should be worth more because we're buying the card, not the grade. So here's the data here. The highest one sold for $20.90. The lowest one sold for $17.30. That's a spread of over 20% difference. There's a 20% gap, and they're the same grade. I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing because it means people are buying the card, not the grade. They're paying up way more for the nicer looking card, even though the grade is the same. Now, both were auctions. Now, let's look here. Look at this. Which of these two would you rather have? The one on the left or the one on the right? Two really nice copies of the card, in my opinion. Two really nice ones. So which one would you rather have if you had to pick one of them? Or you got to pick one of them, I should say. Now, I could make the argument for each. Colors may be a little bit better on the left, but is that because the picture is just darker? Check this out. The one on the left was a 4. The one on the right was a 3, which is interesting because I actually think the one on the right was better. But look at the sale price. The 3 sold for $2,230. The 4 sold for $2,090. And that's the highest of the 4 4s that we just looked at. So the highest selling 4 sold for less than this 3. I think that's a good thing. It means people are buying with their eyes instead of buying with the grade that was assigned from the grading company. I think that grades are a guide, they're not the law, and those people agreed that bought the 3. How about some 54 Topses? Now we got some old labels, we got some new labels here. We got some really old labels, one's really old, one's medium, and then 2 newer labels. But which one would you want most? Pros and cons to each for sure. Is the picture giving the color enhancements? Hard to tell. But for me, when I look at these 4, one of them has better centering. And again, that's the one here on the left. The one on the right is similar centering. The one on the left, I think, is a little bit better, but it does have a bit of a tilt. So if that drives you nuts, I could see wanting the one on the far right. The one that sold for the most was the one on the left, the one with the best centering. Sold for $700 in a buy it now. And the second highest one is the one on the right, the other one with nice centering. The eye appeal cards sold for the most. Not surprising. The auction for $685 for the one on the right is more than the $540 for the middle left and the $520 middle right. Now, that's a big gap between the highest and the lowest. The highest one sold for $700 versus the middle right sold for $520. Again, same grade, but I think most of us agree that the one on the far left is better. So it should be selling for more, but it doesn't always work that way. The gap between the highest of $700 and the lowest of $520 is almost a 35% gap. It's over a third more for the nicer copy of the same grade. Both sold as buy it nows, fixed prices. And the one that sold for the highest here was the one with the best centering, and I think best color, and I think best eye appeal. Now let's look at these 2 cards. Which of these 2 would you rather have? Now again, there's pros and cons to each. The one on the left has a little tilt, the one on the right doesn't at all. So the one on the right has better centering, the one on the left seems to have better color, maybe have a little bit of a better surface. The corners on the right seem pretty comparable, maybe not quite as good as the one on the left. So check this out. The one on the right is a 3. The one on the left is a 4. The 3 sold for quite a bit less. But the 3 also sold for more than those 2 middle copies that were 4s a minute ago. Again, to me, this is a good thing. When you're comping cards, you shouldn't be comping the grade. You should be comping the look of the card. You should be comping how nice is the card, not what it was assigned by PSA or SGC or whoever else. All right, 4 copies of the 56 Jackie Robinson, a beautiful card. Love this card. Now, again, there's pros and cons to each. Top left, really well centered. Bottom left, fairly well centered. The centering on the 2 on the right are not quite as good, but still are all 4 beautiful cards. I'd love to have any of them. I think the one on the top left has the best eye appeal. I think it has the best centering. That's the one I just highlighted there in red. So let's see, how did these all sell? Which one do you think sold for the most? Well, it's probably not surprising that it's the one on the top left, and it sold for $793. Interesting that the 56 is selling for way more than the 54, and also more than the 55. But then the bottom right, would that have been your second pick? That one sold for $579 in a Buy It Now. Notice the one in the top left that sold for the most, it was an auction. The 2 on the right were both Buy It Nows for significantly less. That one on the top, $540. And then the bottom left, also a Buy It Now, sold for $525. Everyone always says you get the best deals with an auction. Well, these sold for $525 to $579, and the only auction of the 4 sold for $793. Why? Because it was the nicest card. That's what should be happening. Now, $793 was the highest, $525 with the lowest. That's a 51% gap for 2 cards in the same grade. We're starting to realize that the grades are suggestions, not final answers. The highest one was an auction, but it was the best centered with the best eye appeal. It's really interesting that things are changing. The grades are no longer dictating the prices. Our eyes are. This is a good thing. I'll continue to say that this is a good thing. Which of those 2 would you rather have? One on the right is super sharp. Great color. One on the left, better centered. So I could see why either people would pick either one. They both have advantages over the other. But the one on the right was a 3 again. The one on the left was a 4. But in this case, the 4 sold for a lot more than the 3. Is it because the side-to-side centering is slightly better on the left? Whereas the corners are better on the right. The color is better on the right. The top-down centering is good. It's just the side-to-side center is not quite as good. That's a big price jump for a little bit better centering side to side. So in this case, I think the 3 was a steal compared to the 5. But that 3, still, it's right in line with those other 4s and what they sold for in a Buy It Now. Very interesting. This is new. This is changing. We're buying the cards. We're not just buying the grades. And that matters.